Hey everybody, this is the Techno Funk Boy, and I'm going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to talk about perler beads, and what brought this up is I actually I regularly get questions about them. Whether I'm doing the videos here or I do, or during my streams. These characters right here are usually behind me, and the Earthbound characters above my head. Those are on the far wall. I used to get the questions more because when I had my desk over in the corner, that back wall was right next to me, and you could really see them. And so you can tell what they are now, but I used to get them a lot more. I When I moved them over here, I put a picture up on Parlor, and I got some questions there. I will give a shout out to Jazz Paladin, who was asking these questions. Jazz Paladin, kind of like Techno Funk Boy, is a musician that does arrangements for retro gaming music, a lot of Final Fantasy, and I've started listening to it. It's really good stuff, and so I should definitely check that out. But I've been getting questions about that, and so I wanted to make a somewhat brief video, just like if you are looking at these like fuse bead pixel art type things, and you want to get started in this. What might be the best way to get started? And so this isn't going to go over like all of the individual techniques or anything like that. It would just take too long. I'll point you in the right direction on a lot of them, but there are a number of pitfalls that I fell into when I first started this, and in visiting other people who do fuse bead stuff. This is a trap that they have that are fairly regular. So, the first of all is where in the world to start. There are a number of different like beginner sets that you can snag. That some of them are very cool. The only thing that to look out for is to make sure that these things are going to be things that are going to support what you actually want to do. A lot of this industry is targeted toward children, which is great. My kids love doing these things, and so they're going to have colors in them, especially like the mixed colors that I don't find particularly useful, and you might not either. And so, if it's one of those that come with the round pegboard, just keep in mind that might not be useful to you in the long run. I actually wouldn't mind having one, just for that odd project here and there. But for the most part, you're going to use the square pegboards. So these are things that you can get on their own, and if I were starting all over, I might do that just buy everything individually. But a starter set is going to be very nice. So to kind of figure out if this is something that you actually really enjoy. If this is something that maybe you tried out at a friend's house and you're like, yes, I love doing this. It's very relaxing to me. I want to do. Go ahead and start buying the individual components that you'll need. By all means, and start investing in that. The kind of the front end can be an investment, but start looking at that. But I'm a big believer in kind of figuring out first if this is something that you're going to like. For some people, it's infuriating. For people like me, it's very relaxing, and so that's why I decided to get into it. So a beginner set is good for that, but it's usually built for a particular purpose, and that purpose might not be your purpose, and so keep that in mind when you're rolling into it. Take a look at the colors. What colors are they offering? What colors will you need long term? color, you're going, if you really get into it, you're going to end up with a lot of different colors. Sometimes you'll just use little bits of it here and there, and they'll last you forever. But it's something to keep in mind. The first the first project, especially if you're going to buy things individually, the first project that you might try is my first project were Dragon Warrior slimes. And then I went to Mega Man. And the reason I picked these is because these are they're very limited colors. Mega Man is too. And so these are good to practice on. This is essentially 4 colors. So even if you're buying individual bags, this is not a huge investment. And it's also a good place to make all of your mistakes. So this is, to me now, it's overcooked. It's a little warped. It feels like it was ironed too much. It feels bumpy, and these are mistakes that I would not make today. But you're kind of getting them out of your system, figuring out what the beads and such can take. Certain brands of beads can be mixed. I pretty much go with perlers. It has everything I need, and certain of the brands don't mix as well as others. They don't melt in the same consistency, and so if you have a mix, that might pose a problem. And so it's something to be aware of, that if you want to mix colors, just start Googling if this is going to work, because there's a lot of people who have done the experiments on how evenly they melt and stuff like that. The first real pitfall, though, don't buy one of these. Don't buy one of these. This is the first day I bought a starter set. I bought this, and there's still beads in here. There's still beads in there because I got so tired of trying to sort them. Bang for your buck. Obviously, that's going to be the cheapest way to get a bunch of beads. Those things are so fine, and there's so many of them, that they are nearly impossible to sort, even with different tricks that I've picked up online that have made it a lot easier. These things, they're miserable to sort. And so I would just avoid them. I would just completely avoid them. Yes, they give you a huge variety of colors early on, where you don't have a big variety yet, but long term, it's more frustrating than anything. And especially when you're trying to figure out if this is something you really like or not, getting frustrated at something is not good. And that's just this. I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours sorting beads out of here, and I'm not done yet. So I would never buy one of those again. I'm going straight for just the individual bags. The small bags have 1,000 beads in them. Now, this single tray holds about 1,000 beads on it. Now, obviously, if you're making like a Final Fantasy character, you're not even going to use that. I don't know, maybe a fourth of that. I don't know how many beads are in here, but it's probably around 200-300. And so, even though these seem like very small bags, they're actually going to last you pretty good. They're going to last you through at least a few projects. If this is something that you want to get into long term, black and white, definitely go with the larger ones. Black, especially black, is where you burn the most beads. You can tell, like in these kind of characters, the whole outline is black. And so you're going to use white in pretty much everything you do, but when you actually look at how much white you use, it's like there's 3 up here, there's 2 here, I think there's 2 over here, and another one on the eye. And so, like here, here I uses a lot of blue, dark blue, and then I'll go and make a Terra, and I won't use any blue, and I'm still going to use a little bit of white though, and so the white does actually use up, but black perler beads is where you are going to go through the most. But that being said, it's like a Mega Man or a slime. You can get these type of bags, 4 different colors, $4 a piece about, and a couple of the trays, and you can at least get a couple of projects under your belt, some small ones so you can practice the ironing practice, how basically how it all fits together, and all of that. Uh, uh, you could get started fairly cheaply, and then you have these colors going forward. So this is the way I do colors. Is when I'm starting a project, I figure out what colors I need and what I have, and if there's a new color that I really think I'm gonna need. I start hitting Amazon, another great site, fusebeadstore.com, fantastic site, that has the kind of the most comprehensive selection there. No, they're not a paid sponsor, but I would talk to them. But there's you can order these very quickly, very easily. Um, Patterns are everywhere. Just do a Google search. You pick your favorite character and perler pattern, and you're likely to find it. The If you're doing something completely custom, I've even seen some apps that will help you like take a photo and turn it into a pattern. But you can find these patterns anywhere. These pixel arts are especially easy to do because even if you don't have a pattern, and all the Final Fantasy characters have patterns, but even if you don't, you can actually pick up the sprite from the game and figure it out very accurately. These pixels are there, and you blow it up and they're very distinct, and so you can see it. A lot of the sprite characters from NES and Super NES games will fit on a single um, uh, tray. Sometimes they'll go a little bit above. I did I've done some that required larger builds, that just have more detail, that aren't necessarily like just the sprite from the game itself. But I really do like having the entire cast like on my wall. Obviously, I've started Final Fantasy VI here, but I've only gotten 3 into it, so those aren't on my wall yet. Um, um, so let's say, okay, so we've gotten through that. We've practiced on something small. We want to move forward with it, so I might pick like a Terra, and just figure out what I need. There's going to be some stuff that's going to be very useful for me long term. All of the little like different purples in here. I think there's a lavender, there's a light purple. These are actually used quite a bit, and so they're going to be very helpful. The green is used quite a bit, but with most SNES characters, when you have a color, you're very often going to use 2 shades of it. In NES, you usually don't, but on SNES, so like you'll have like the darker greens, but then also the lighter greens, and then you have some highlights. These are just whites. Um, you have kind of a lavender and a lighter purple in there as well. So you're going to end up getting several different shades, and not using a lot. Like these purples, you're just using a handful each, but now you have it for the next one, and you will use those colors very soon. And so next time you're not going to need to order. This is how I build the collection up. and it's when you have only a few colors, those are very, very easy to store. What I did once I got several colors was I got like a uh, one of those containers to hold screws and nails for the shop. The slide out little compartments, and I have them labeled, and I have one for each color. And so when I get down to the bottom, I know it's free time to reorder that color. If I'm getting down to the bottom, then I use it enough to reorder it. There are some colors in there that I've used for just a couple of projects, and they'll stay in there forever. A couple of pitfalls that I found very, very early on is, first of all, skin is not, it's not intuitive what you need to use in perler. And so like I didn't grab them down there, but my original Cecil and my cane, I used as I forgot what color it was. I think the main color was tan for their skin, and they're wearing so much armor that there's very little skin showing. And if I showed it to you up close, you'll see that wow, they look like they actually look like they have a sunburn. They're not like actually tan. They look like they've been burned a little bit. But it didn't really make much of a difference because their skin was there's so little of it because of all the armor and stuff. But the next one I did was the young Rydia, and she looked horrible. And I started doing some research on skin. The color that, like, if like here, I don't trying to get it so you can see it. The color I use for skin now is sand, which is not intuitive. It's not the one you're going to look up for sand. And then the darker part I think is just tan. So this part right here is the sand, and I think right there is tan for the shadows under her neck. That's what I use now. I'm much more happy with that. I think that comes out looking really good, and that's what I've been using. What I've been using now, and so that's going to be an early purchase for you, even though you wouldn't think that it would need to be. Like, yeah, you're immediately going to look for colors like like tan and peach and stuff, but those are not. Those end up being wrong. If you have a project like this, let's say, and this is what I talk about, like, figure out what you need for this. All right, so for this, you're going to need the white and the black, of course, and then the skin tones. What we have here, though, is a couple of different shades of gray, which is great because you're going to use a lot of gray. A couple of different shades of blue, which is great. You're going to need blue. And a couple of different shades of brown. All these are colors you're going to use over and over and over again. So this would actually be a really good starting project once you've kind of figured out what you're doing. One of those blues now you're going to be able to use here. I think it's that one right there is the same blue that we used in the previous one, and then we already have the skin, the blacks, and all that. So now we're just really looking for a different shade of blue. You can tell, that one's a little bit darker blue than the other, and those greens, and then the hair. This sort of kind of dirty blonde hair was another pitfall for me, and I haven't really found a way with perlers that I'm 100% happy with the result. You get the Edward perler right there has just yellow and light yellow, the kind of really striking blonde. That's a lot easier than the dirty blonde here. And I traded it before I melted this. I traded it out several times before doing that, and finally came across that pattern, which I'm pretty happy with. We'll use the same colors for Savin when we do his next. So now once we get all of our colors in and we've put it on our pegboard, now we're ready to iron it, to fuse it all together. one thing that I did not know for a long time is the detaping method. And that's where you get. I won't show it to you in this video because it takes too long. But you put basically you put masking tape over all of it, press it down so all of them are good, and punch holes for air. Once you're heating it, you want the air to be able to flow through those, and so punch holes, at each perler. But then you can actually remove it from your board, and I ironed one side on my board for a long time, but long term that just damages the board, and you want those to be able to last as long as possible, because that is probably the most expensive part of it. Uh, Ironing really is a matter of how deep you go. It really is a matter of taste. My original slimes melted the heck out of these. Now I kind of really like the kind of pixelated view. I've kept having to do this because it's so lightly ironed that you can still see the holes in it. This is totally a matter of taste, and so kind of figure out, in your experiments, figure out which ones you like, and figure out how to get it to that point. And so that's kind of how to get started. Does it get started on this? Like I said, this is a hobby that I find very, very relaxing. My kids really like it too, and so especially as a gamer who likes pixel art and stuff, to be able to recreate these things, and in these little, I don't know what, maybe 8-inch figures that I can then stick on the wall and decorate behind me, and be able to see and show off in my videos and in my streams. It's a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy it, and so yeah, thank you for watching, and feel free to join us in Discord. Techno Funk Boy does have a Discord server. You can catch me on Parler. I have had the worst time this entire video to keep Perler and Parler straight, but I am on Parler and I use Perler. That's right. And show me what you're doing with these. I love looking at Fuse bead art. I think it's a lot of fun, and so I'd love to see what you're coming up with and what you're creating. And so catch me in one of those places, and show me what we've been up to. Otherwise, I for the normal viewers, apologize for a little bit of a different topic. We do normally talk about most like video game music and Dungeons and Dragons here a lot. That's kind of the main focus around here. And so if you haven't subscribed yet, please do give me a subscription, and that way you'll be notified of when new videos come up. You can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/TechnoFunkBoy, and of course on the Retro Station podcast, which is available on all your favorite podcast apps. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you another time.